I am super, super excited to be doing the spotlight on Austin, who is just doing some really, really cool stuff in his business. And I can't wait to share it with you guys and let you guys learn from Austin here today. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here today. So today's spotlight is on someone who has quietly, but also consistently followed our blueprint step by step. And now Austin is starting a business that's not just productive, but very intentional and profitable, but also uniquely his, which is so cool. Austin didn't start in real estate the way that most people start. He didn't wait until he had everything figured out to get going. He kind of started where he could. And so he started as a leasing agent, learning the ropes, getting inside the day-to-day rhythm of the business, all while he was working towards his license. And then from there, Austin took a route that most people would probably avoid. He took on a showing partner role where he was giving up majority of his commission, not because it was glamorous, but because it gave him something that money couldn't access. And that's reps, that's access to top agents and mentorship. And so instead of skipping steps or chasing shiny objects, Austin's always really played the long game, which I think is a really cool thing where you guys get to learn about how he's always done that. When he was ready, he moved into the team model. He started taking Zillow leads, open house clients, and Google pay-per-click buyers. But the key is that he got into action right away. And he built consistency and earned the confidence and skill set to start chasing the bigger deals. Over the last, I'd say 9 months, something shifted for Austin. And so he's really been more building a personal brand and anchoring it to something authentic. And real estate isn't only about homes. It's also about lifestyle. It's about hospitality, experience, and most importantly, community. And so I think Austin has done an amazing job of really leaning into that identity and building a community around his clients. So today, he's just sold over $15 million in the last 12 months. He's signed 4 listings already, and he put in the chat that he sent out another one yesterday. He's working a sphere. He's getting repeat clients, and he's gaining traction in that one area where most agents never crack, and that's referrals. And best of all, he's doing it now at better splits, better margins, and with more control over his time. And I know Austin's not done here, and we're going to learn about this today, is next come leverage and then reinvesting in his business and the intentional steps that he's going to take to get here. So if you ever wondered what it looks like to start from zero and get to the place where you're having a really successful, thriving business, Austin's story is the one to watch here today. So I don't want this to only be me asking questions. I want you guys to have an opportunity to ask Austin your own questions as well. So please use the chat so that we're all able to learn from Austin here today. So Austin, over to you, man. Can you start off telling everyone who you are, where you're based, and how long you've been in real estate?
Yeah, so I first got licensed at the end of November 2021, which was a very different market that I was getting into. So I think I'm in my 4th year or finished my 4th year. I can't really remember, but I'm out here in Monterey. So serving the Monterey Peninsula, Carmel Valley, Salinas. So pretty broad territory, but nothing crazy big.
I'll help with the math. You just finished your 3rd full calendar year and you sold 15 million.
That's it.
You sold 15 million in your 3rd calendar year, which is really, really cool. Let's start at the beginning, right? So when you mentioned you were getting your license in November 2021, before you got licensed, you started working as a leasing agent for just a couple of months, so on a show partner role for 6 months. So how did you get into those, and what did you learn early on?
Well, that all kind of happened kind of organically going into leasing agent because, I had reached out to Kevin in that summer and I said, hey, I was living in Oregon at the time and I was going to move back. So I said, hey, I want to get my license. You guys got a job for me? And obviously Kevin, fuck yeah, let's go. He's all fired up. So while I had to take the courses and studying for my exam, the leasing agent was actually just kind of a perfect role to step into because it was like, hey, you're going to be opening doors, you're going to be showing houses. So it's a great opportunity for me to learn how, to get those repetitions in. You get a lot of them in. So right off the bat, when I was licensed, I probably had shown more properties than most agents do in their first year. Obviously, a little bit different experience as these people are looking to rent. They're not looking to buy, but it just felt much more natural to me. So I learned early on the importance of arriving to these appointments early and having homes being shown that are properly set up, having the lights on, as well as like really understanding all the different micro neighborhoods and pros and cons of each street in town. So it's really like a great experience for me. And you learn how to like talk to people too, just kind of casually while you're showing homes.
That's cool. It's a lot of the stuff that we kind of take for granted in this business, right? Like the service side of the business. And we sometimes can think, hey, that's just assumed to be what you do and be naturally good at that. But the repetitions are so important.
Repetitions are incredibly important in this industry.
So knowing what you know now, would you do that experience again?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, especially given that I wasn't a licensed agent, like if you can do that for a few months while you're working on it, or like if you're thinking about it and seeing if real estate's the right industry for you, 100%.
Awesome. And so you only did that for a couple months. And as soon as you got your license, you hopped into that. And then same with Show Partner, you only did that for about 5 months. And then once you found your feet, you hopped out of that. So what were those first early big wins where you mentioned knowing real estate's right for you? What were those first big wins where you realized real estate was right for you?
I kind of just felt like real estate was right for me. And I always thought it would be a good fit even before I got into it. I've always loved homes. I've loved talking to people. But my first real big win came when I was a show partner working that high split, but it came from one of my first open houses. And this was actually at Golden Oaks condominium in Monterey. And this was like during the peak craziness in early 2022 before things slowed down that summer. So the open house was slammed. I couldn't talk to everybody, but I tried to talk to who I thought would be, like a high interest, high prospect buyer. And we ended up writing an aggressive offer on it, and we beat several others, which was my first escrow, first closed sale. I mean, that was a huge deal. I think I was in it. I was licensed for 2 to 3 months at the time. And what's awesome is that actually ended up becoming a listing like a year down the road. So
cool.
Yeah.
And so I know when you first were starting out, you were very intentional about getting as many, reps, like you mentioned, but also opportunities, and primarily through open houses. So what was that kind of your mindset behind that?
I don't even know if I really had a mindset behind it. I just knew it's like, this is something you got to do. Yeah. I mean, it proved very early on that was important because like that first open house, right? I repped the buyer that walked in, and then it became a listing a year later. And then I got a Zillow call for the buyer. I showed them houses that one weekend. They ended up buying it. So I did both sides of it. And the listing agreement that I sent out yesterday is for that buyer who's selling the property again and buying another property. So like right there, if I get this sold, I could sell it 4 times and they're going to buy something else, which is like proof in the pudding right there.
Yeah. That's pretty insane. That's incredible. That's the gift that keeps giving right there. But just shows like the little activities that you do, how much can come from it if they're repetitive and they're ready to capitalize.
Yeah. Hey, if I bring the buyer on it again too, that'll be 5 transactions on one unit.
There you go. So speaking of the open houses, you found momentum early on with it. So what's been kind of your secret sauce of open houses? Like what made them work so well for you?
Really, I don't think there's like any secret sauce to it. When it comes to open houses, there's like a few main things that you really need to like your strategy. And first of all, understand your local market, know your recent comps, know all the other active listings. You really do want to come off to these people when they're coming in with questions. You need to be an expert. You need to be a pro. And like the way I see every open house is really, it's a job interview. And so when it comes to like talking to them, I really just ask a lot of questions, really coming from curiosity. So like most of the time, I'm not really even talking about the house. I am just trying to get to know them. And so it's like a balance of being professional, showing you have in-depth market knowledge. You're an expert, but you're also just a cool dude. So I've actually had like a lot of success with it. I think it's different for everybody, but I feel like once you have a good connection with them, it's a lot easier to get a phone number. And that's kind of like the main overarching strategy I use. I don't think there's any perfect way to do it. Like I said, you got to find your own style, right? Some people will gravitate towards my style. Others will find me too casual and not like me. So, I mean, I have friends that are very like analytical and type A that have been trying to get into real estate, but they're like, oh, I don't think I'd be good at it. I'm not like you. I'm like, there's a lot of people who don't want to work with someone like me, that they would love to work with someone just like you. So you really do have to do like we were saying, it's all about the repetitions and finding out what works for you and what's kind of natural and really leaning into your strengths.
Leaning in your strengths. I love that. So a couple things that you said there, I just want to kind of repeat to everybody so they kind of like really focus in on them is number one is come from curiosity. I think that's so important, right? Like really just get to know people. The fact that you have the laid back style, I think makes it very easy for people to embrace you, and because they don't feel that sales approach, right? And really becomes, and it comes from the fact though, because you're relationship focused to begin with, right? And so you guys notice he said he doesn't even really worry about the house so much. He just gets to know them, comes from curiosity, builds the relationship, and that actually just makes everything easier down the road. And so really, really great advice there. I think regardless of what your style is, implementing some of that is going to be helpful for everybody.
Yeah, and I agree because at a lot of these open houses, they do have their guard up because they're like, oh, great, another realtor trying to get my information. So if you just kind of talking to them, asking about their kids, where they live, things like that, it helps drop their guard, and they just become more comfortable with you.
Yep. You got to get people comfortable to drop their guard. Absolutely. And then, so as your business progressed, or as you progressed in your years in real estate, what's been like crazy about you is you've worked every lead source really effectively. You've had success with open houses. You've had success with Zillow. You've had success with Google pay-per-click. You've done sphere deals. You've done past client deals, all in like a really short amount of time. You've done investment partner deals. You've dabbled in vacation rentals. So like, what was your ideal lead mix and your mindset behind that these first few years?
My first few years was such a mix, which was good. And my first 3 deals were completely different lead sources. The first one was an open house. The second one was a sphere referral. And then the third one was a Google pay-per-click, which was my first big win. That was kind of a funny story. They were a Google pay-per-click lead, and they were just like, yeah, no, we're thinking about it, but we got no timeline. We're not interested. And then one day they submitted an inquiry. I think it was through our website, and I didn't see it for a couple hours. And they inquired on a $3.2 million property. So I called them up and they're like, oh yeah, it's all good. We already set up an appointment with the listing agent. I was like, okay, great. What time are you going there? I'll meet you there. And so I ended up calling the listing agent and being like, hey, so my clients they mentioned they reached out to you, set an appointment. Do you have disclosures? And I just completely pretended like I'd been working with them for a while. The guy even asked me, he's like, oh, well, how old are they? I was like, 60s, 70s. And I think they were like in their 80s and 90s. But yeah, we ended up writing an offer that day on it. But going on a tangent here, I would say for sure my first few years, Zillow was pretty critical, and I had a fairly good conversion rate on those. So I was very fortunate. And at the time too, we also had an ISA, which was helpful to tee up appointments. I think with like the new way we have it set up with the pawn structure and inbound leads, I'll take this new system any day over paying someone out an additional 8%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's good to be the first one to reach out too,
Yes, right. To build that relationship right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
So important. Well, really cool. So you've really mixed in all those different lead sources and really done a great job of mastering them. How does like education play a factor in for you of learning those different things? Like how much is education and how much is like just going out and doing it?
As far as education, I listen to some podcasts here and there. My only advice on those is if you listen to one, just find one good thing. And like, especially like with our weekly meetings, I always try to find at least one, maybe 2 things and really focus on that versus all of the information, because it's a lot of information. So, and it's only so much that your brain can really take in. So you really want to focus on one thing and try to get really good at it. If you're able to just get a little bit better every time, that all stacks up. Now, if you're trying to do too much at once, you're not going to get really good at anything. But I think really there's no way around putting in the actual work and getting the reps in. That's like, I would say 95% of it or higher.
It's just going out and doing it.
Yeah. It's just like with anything in life, you can't You can't learn how to do anything unless you actually do it. Somebody can show you 100 times how to do framing on a house, but you're never going to learn until you do it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So based on that advice, guys, I have a challenge for you guys today to take just one, maybe two things from today to focus on and to implement in your business that you learned from Austin here today. And don't go say, hey, Austin does all these amazing things, I'm going to go do them all. Just try to find that one and make sure that one is the big domino that you push that over, and all the other dominoes seemingly just fall over in its weight. So there's always just that one thing. Every meeting you go to, every week that you enter, focus on that one thing that's the biggest thing for you to get. So that's my challenge to all of you listening here to Austin today. So that's super helpful. Super, super helpful, Austin. I couldn't agree more with just having that singular focus and just getting a little bit better every day is so important. As part of like your success over these last 3.5 years in real estate, I think that your production obviously is very impressive and really exciting. I think what's even more impressive though is how much you're able to spend time with your newborn son, Crosby. You took time off when he was born, and you've been very present as a father and present as a husband to Michaela. So how do you manage your work-life balance so well?
I don't think there's any like secret sauce to this one, right? I've just made time with my family a huge priority. And yeah, I mean, when Crosby was born, I took like 3 months off. It was helpful because I had a good first few months of that year before that. But then the well started to dry up. But, I mean, here's the thing is like, you can always work more and make more money. There's always going to be time for that, but you get so little time with your kids. And, this period of our life has already seemed like it's flying by. I heard something recently and that put it into perspective. It's like, you only get 18 summers really before the kids are out of the house. Like 18 summers. So you got to make those summers count. Even, of course, that's our busy season, but you have to carve out time for it. And real estate really has been like the best decision I've made in terms of that flexibility. It's just given me so much. I mean, obviously, it's very demanding. So one thing I've had to learn to say is not right now, not even necessarily like no. I mean, occasionally you just say no, but you say not right now, like let's work around this. So sometimes there are clients you can't say that to, and yeah, you have to make compromises and prioritize. So, but having boundaries, I would say, is super, super important. And being on the team has also been so helpful because the back end support saves you so much time from all these mundane tasks that take up too much of your focus. So one thing I generally try to do is I always try to block off Sundays. It's important to have like a day blocked off. And if someone needs my time on Sunday, my first thing is I try to move it the day before, day after. Sometimes it doesn't pan out, right? So you make some compromises.
I love that line. I'm going to use that line. It might be what I take from here today is I'm not saying no, I'm just saying not right now.
Yeah.
I love that one. That might be my one takeaway today. So really, really cool. I want to kind of shift the focus now, Austin, to something that I'm personally like really fired up about right now. It's something that I'm really excited that you've done since the beginning. And I'm really fired up about other agents starting to incorporate this into their business. And that is the focus on personal brand. So you very early on went all in on something called wine and real estate. So how did that wine and real estate come to life? And why do you think that resonates so well into your business and with your clients?
The funny story about this one is I didn't even come up with this. We were all sitting around the conference table trying to come up with new content ideas. And Kevin is just like, wait, Austin, you need to pair a wine with a house. It's like all fired up. And it was really clever. And, and at the time I was like, I don't know, I'm not so sure about that. Because like he genuinely likes to go out and make content for the whole world to see, But I get comments all the time from people about wine and real estate. It's definitely helped my business, especially in terms of keeping me just front of mind for my sphere. And, it is something that does stick out, and I think they genuinely like the videos. It's different, right? So, I think a lot of trouble many agents have is, finding a way to stand out for their marketing, because a lot of real estate marketing has come kind of the same thing. So it's been a real fun change. I mean, I can confidently say that I've honestly secured at least 3 sphere deals that have stemmed from wine and real estate just because of being front of mind in my sphere and my network. Nobody watches it on YouTube and gives me a call and asks me to be their agent, but it's important to just keep doing it. And, like I said, staying front of mind.
So if you guys haven't seen these videos yet, you guys have to go to Austin's Instagram and check them out. They're so good. So he pairs the wine with the house and talks about the different notes and why they work so well with the home. They're like amazing videos. But I don't know if you guys caught what he just said. He's done 3 sphere deals to having this brand. And so you might not be like Austin and want to be on camera, but it still doesn't mean that you can't be all in on a brand, right? And the way that you represent your brand, the way that you present it to the world and market it, doesn't have to be an Instagram video. And so I think Austin incorporates wine into his brand beyond just those videos. So like, what are different ways that you've kind of used wine in real estate now, Austin, to outside of Instagram, essentially?
Good question. I don't know if I've used it really outside of there, but I will say like many of my clients, a lot of my sphere was either in the wine industry, because I used to be a sommelier in town and worked in the wine industry, or they worked at restaurants, or a lot of them actually are former guests at restaurants. My listing on Spruce, I actually met them years ago working at Casanova, pouring them wine. So I think that was like the wine and real estate. They came out and reached out to me. So it's really been a privilege, and I'm honored they entrusted me first with the wine experience, and now I'm helping some of them with the biggest purchases or sales of their lives. So, I still actually use wine as a reason to really like check in with people. Like I'll send some people cool bottle shots, or ask about a new winery in the area to see if they've had it. And, I also personally like to send them new wine and real estate YouTube videos once they drop too. So just like it's a good way to just like keep people in the loop and checking in on them.
Keep the conversation going. So it's not just like, hey, I'm following up. Hey, I'm checking in. It's, hey, I'm actually coming with something with value that you like talking about. And I enjoy as well, right? Something we can connect over.
And it's a good check-in too. That's just like, hey, look at this cool thing. I'm not trying to sell you something. Like we're friends. But exactly. When you are ready to buy, you better call me.
Because if not, I'll call the listing agent and sneak in anyways. Well, really, really cool. I love the way that you use the brand, and I think it's really cool how you incorporate it in your business immediately, and proofs in the pudding of how many results it's already had for you. So before I ask that last question, I asked people to draw some stuff in the chat, so I want to share that real fast. So Devin said, "Great way to build confidence when you're first getting going. Assume your role and assume the close. Love it. Great information. Awesome. Focus on what you're good at and do that." Rebecca, thank you, Austin. Very inspiring. Valerie has a question for you. What did your open house schedule look like early on in your career?
The non-negotiable was at least once a week. Try to do 2, but just stay consistent. That's the thing. Just at least 1 a week. Ideally 3 hours. If you can't do a 4-hour open house twice over the weekend, just do 1 for 2 hours, or just get out there.
And like you said, the consistency is the more important thing. It's the doing it week after week after week, not just that long blitz, right?
Yeah, and like a lot of these people you'll see several times, and they go, "Okay, this person's the real deal." And then they have that familiarity, and it's a lot easier to follow up and contact them.
You start seeing those people week after week, right?
Yep.
And then Monica, some good love. Thanks for sharing. No, so maybe I can say not right now. And then how do we find you on Instagram? I'll put his link here in the chat for you guys to check out there. So great stuff. Thanks for sharing, guys. And continue asking questions as we go along. So most agents that I talk to, and I talk to a lot of new agents considering the team, considering the brokerage. Elisa's on the call. She talks to a lot of people as well. But one of the biggest concerns that both Elisa and I get is splits, regardless of where they're at in their careers, right? And you, on the other hand, you started your business giving up the majority of your commission, and you treated it like a stepping stone. So what would you say to somebody else who is either just brand new or has been in the business for a while, who's maybe getting a low split or is worried about getting a low split, even though they don't have momentum in their business?
I tell them that's nice, but my first take-home split was 15%. Yeah. But I wouldn't trade that, because low splits are nice, but if you have no momentum, what does the split mean, right? If you're not closing deals, who cares what your split is? So the success is really just in those day-to-day repetitions, making the calls you don't want to make, holding open houses consistently, when it's obviously the perfect day to go to the beach. I always say, you can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pockets. So there's really no way around it.
Wow.
Anyone who's trying to sell you that, like, oh, here's an easy hack, this or that, it's like, okay, I'm sure there's some great strategies and tactics, but at the end of the day, it's sweat equity and elbow grease. So in my first few years, if I had kept 100% of my commission but had no company leads, I've done the math, I would have made less money. So aside from the split, this industry really is defined by momentum, I would say. So you need to close more deals because those deals lead to more referrals. They lead to past buyers who are now ready to move and list their home. So, and those listings translate to neighbors stopping by your open house because they're thinking about selling, or they have a friend or family member who wants to move. So, everything's like exponential in this business. One deal leads to 2 to 3 down the road. And you multiply that by 10 deals, you're talking about 20, 30 deals, right? So, not every deal generates new business, but a ton of them do in my experience.
Such great stuff right there. This industry is defined by momentum, guys. Defined by momentum. So you have to create those wins early and fast, and then create that exponential experience that he's talking about. So great. And then Austin, you and I did the math again this past year, and it made sense now because you were doing more sphere business to transition into a part of the team where you could keep more of your commission. So those things are available to people once you start getting that momentum, is then you can start going to places where you are keeping more. And it's all a math equation, right? And it's all a trade-off. And Anna put a great comment in here, is splits are an investment into the business, right? And so it's an investment to get that momentum. And then once you have it, then you can get to a point where you now are keeping more and you can continue down that blueprint. So really, really cool. So you're starting to really own your own business now through this branding, through your spheres, through this exponential experience that you're referencing. So what does owning your own business mean to you now?
Well, it's liberating, really. I feel like there's more security in my business. There's less unknowing about, oh God, what's going to happen? Am I going to get this Zillow lead? Or, like the ultimate goal for me really with this industry is freedom, like financial freedom, obviously, and freedom of my time to spend it how I want to. As long as I have like a good looking pipeline, and say I have a slow week coming up, I just want to be able to one afternoon just be like, all right, I'm going to take off for a week without stressing about it too much. But, I think we also all know it isn't that simple, and you do need to be available for your clients. So it's all a balancing act, but it's head and shoulders above working for a boss with a steady paycheck where someone else decides whether you can take time off or not, right? Like you want to be the master of your own life. So, it's riskier, but the reward is worth it. And I think what the team here has really given me is it's an incredible stepping stone to getting to a point where my business is becoming more my own. And, I wouldn't be here without all the support and the systems in place that you've designed and developed. If you could delay the natural desire for instant gratification, keep your head down, put the hours in, log the calls, and stay consistent, we have a really winning formula here.
That's awesome. Awesome. Really, really well said. So what about for you? Like, as you've hit this, you signed 4 listings, signing probably 5th one today, and, more focus on Sphere. What's your next big goal?
Well, keep the listings coming, but also really dialing in on higher price points, which obviously, that's kind of everyone's goal. So it's not really a surprise, but, I would like, a higher percentage of my transactions to be in the luxury market. And that's just something that's just going to take time. I'm sure if I sat down and, really put a plan together, I could come up with something. But I think one of my strengths is that I'm good at paying attention to, what's right in front of my face. It's also a weakness in ways, right? But sometimes people, I think they're thinking too far out into the future, and they aren't focused on like what they're doing now, what they could fix right now and make their business just 1% better,
Focus on too many things. Yeah.
Yeah. And one day I'm going to engineer an open house sign that's lightweight and never falls down. Make a business out.
Right. Exactly. Just keep thinking about that. So what has worked well for you in the past for building your brand, and what could help you get associated more now with a higher price point, do you think?
my brand really is, I feel like my clients trust me, and I always operate under the premise that I'm a fiduciary to them, and I owe them all my honesty, my diligence, and going to battle for them. And I think with that, like these things just they naturally come. And like I'm starting to get some really decent listings here. And there's going to be neighbors and there's going to be friends of them. And I think, I guess it's kind of a more of an organic approach to it. But also too, like I do spend some time in the pond, and I do kind of target the high price point buyers. So that that one is looking good for the next quarter. We'll see. You never know.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about that. So you use like a cherry picking method in the pond, right?
Yeah.
Would you be willing to share with everybody kind of what you do in the pond? Because I think it's very intelligent, and I think if you're not doing it, you're really missing an easy win.
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, I like the pond users call. That's a great one. Sometimes I'll filter it through and see what kind of activity is in there. Like, all right, have they been on the website for 2.5 years? Like, I'm probably not going to call them if they've just been clicking for 2.5 years. If they're somewhere in like the 6 months range, they've been looking, but they're like consistently within a certain price point. I'm like, okay, they're kind of seriously looking. They're not looking at $12 million houses and things all over the place that are just like, all right, they're just like window shopping. They just like to look. And like also seeing and kind of going through their feed and seeing like if their activity is fairly consistent too. So I did that. And also too, new registrations are pretty handy too, because you can give them a call, and if they tell you to buzz off, then you're done with them. Move on to the next one. I've got some clients right now that are probably a couple months out, but they have roughly like a $6 million budget that I just called on from the pond. So,
wow.
And yeah, I've toured them houses before, and they didn't want to sign anything with me. I was like, okay, that's fine. But they liked me, so they're working with me now.
That's amazing. Well, I'm sure because you focus on that relationship first. So really, really cool. So if you guys aren't cherry picking the pond, I recommend starting. So Austin, if you could go back to the version of who you were when you just were starting as a leasing agent, what would you now tell yourself then?
I'd say go all in. Don't get caught up over politics or splits or any of that crap. You shape your own destiny, and the fastest way out of the storm is right through it. The cow herd runs away from the storm, and they end up being caught in it far longer than the American bison, which charges the storm head on and goes right through it. So if you keep at it and keep putting yourself at risk of losses and rejections, there's going to be victories, and it's inevitable. So just use the blueprint here, and you're going to win.
Pretty great advice there. Fastest way through the storm is right through it. I love that. What do you think makes you different from most agents right now?
I do a lot of extra work free that I probably shouldn't, but most agents just hire someone else and send the bill to the client. Like at Spruce, I spent 3 or 4 hours there before we listed, pressure washing the driveway. I pressure washed the house. I would say don't do that unless you kind of know what you're doing. Yeah, but I think in the long run, it's gonna pay off, right? I had neighbors actually when I was doing that ask me about the house, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm listing it for sale." They're like, "You're the realtor?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh wow!" Like they were really genuinely impressed by that. Unfortunately, realtors get a bad rap. We all know it's not true. They just say like, "Oh, they just take photos and post it online." They don't see anything behind the scenes. But I think for a lot of people that are suspicious, that something like that could go a long way. I see myself as a steward of one of their biggest, if not the biggest assets of their life. So I treat the property as if it's my own, and I put myself in my client's shoes. Aside from that, I just naturally enjoy talking to these people and just trying to get to know them, versus going in for the kill. And I think people are receptive to that.
Well, I think that's so cool because you will not become a commodity because you have that mindset where you're going to go above and beyond for people. You're going to go do something like power wash the house to make sure that it's going to have the right results. And so you're at no risk of being wiped out of the industry because you are always going to be somebody who has a relationship and goes the extra mile. And that's just so cool. And I think for a lot of people, like you said, they try to remove themselves from the day-to-day too quickly, when really what they need to do is dive all in. And Austin, kind of last question for you though is, if someone here is watching this and they're feeling stuck in their business, you mentioned the one thing. What's one thing that they can do this week to move their business forward?
Take a vacation this weekend. I mean, seriously, your phone's going to blow up. I'm not even kidding. It happens every time. But, aside from that, I would say call or text, all of your past clients or sphere and just ask them for a referral, like point blank, or if they know anyone considering buying or selling. So, and I think people will be more receptive to that. And I think that'll put it in their head that it's like, hey, my business operates on referrals, and they'll remember you. And it's like a good reason to check in with them every 6 to 12 months. So, I mean, like I say, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So,
yes, go text your past clients, communicate with your SOI, make sure people know you operate on referrals, because so much of us don't even let our clients know, right, that we even operate on referrals. So make sure they're aware of that. Maybe they don't have a referral for you today, but maybe they do here in the future. And also, everyone go on vacation. I'm on vacation. Hopefully I get these calls too. Really, really cool stuff, Austin. I took a ton of notes today. I'm sure everybody else did as well. Super, super helpful, high value things that you brought here today. I'm so impressed with everything you've accomplished in your short time in real estate. I know that anything you want to tackle and add to your business is going to be possible for you. You mentioned raising your price point and continuing getting more listings. And I know for a fact you're going to continue being one of the top listing agents in the Monterey County area. And that's going to continue to raise and show itself in higher and higher price points each and every time. And I think every single one of your clients is so fortunate and lucky to get to work with you because of the care and relationship focus that you have with them that so many people miss. And so just really, really cool stuff. Austin, you just really have just crushed this start of this business. And I'm just really, really impressed with everything you've done. So, well, awesome, Austin. Well, thank you so much for doing this today. I hope you all got a lot from Austin. And if they want more of you, Austin, where can they find you?
they can call me, email me, DM me, text me.
Just not on Sundays.
It's not on Sundays. Yeah, you guys can call or text me on Sunday. That's fine.
He won't say no. He'll just say not right now too. Definitely go give Austin a follow on Instagram. Go check out his wine and real estate videos. They're pretty incredible. Share them, give him some love. And I know everyone's going to continue watching closely because you do some really great stuff in your business.